Hey guys, Chris Fix here, and today I'm going to show you how to replace these old, worn out, non-supportive stock seats with these brand new aftermarket racing seats. And there's a couple very important reasons on why you might want to upgrade to bucket racing seats like these. The first and probably most important reason is for all the extra side support. The stock seats on this car have very little side support. And I do take this car to the track and check out how much I move in this seat. This is one of the first things I noticed, and I was really fighting to stay in my seat rather than focusing on driving. So with these racing seats, you have tons of lateral support. Look at these extra wide shoulder bolsters to keep you planted at the top of your seat, and then these are deep bucket seats, so you have a lot of support on the sides here as well. And as you can see, I have a 6-point harness set up. Racing seats have these pass-throughs, which allows you to install a harness, which is gonna really hold you in nice and tight. And that brings me to my second reason why, which is safety. Not only are we gonna be able to run a full 6-point harness, but these racing seats are FIA rated, and they're a single-piece design, which makes them extra sturdy and extra safe in case of an accident. It also makes them extra light, which is our third reason. So I have a scale here. I'm gonna weigh the stock seats that are in the car right now, and we'll see how much they weigh, and then I'm gonna weigh these seats, and we're gonna check out the difference for some weight savings. And then speaking of the stock seats, the final reason is these stock seats have seen better days. They're uncomfortable. You can see the metal sticking out here, the foam's all messed up, and they just don't look good. So these new racing seats are gonna look way better, and they're gonna be a lot more comfortable for when we're driving. And those are the main reasons why I got racing seats. And if you want to get your own racing seats, I have an entire video where I took you guys along with me into the store and showed you all the different types of racing seats that you could get, as well as the process of measuring yourself to make sure the seat fits you properly and to make sure the seat fits in your car properly. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it in the description so you could check it out. But this video right now is how to install racing seats. Using these brackets, we're gonna get these seats in that car. And as you guys know, I like to take things to the next level, and I like to go above and beyond. I don't know if you've noticed, but I removed this black plastic trim from around the edges of the harness pass-through because I have a really cool idea that I've been wanting to do so bad since I got these seats. So what I did is I went out and I bought this really high quality suede material, and I took this to the embroidery shop and I had them embroider my logo into the suede, actually into 2 pieces of suede. And I already spoke with an upholstery shop, and what we're gonna do is, see this white outline here? We're gonna keep that white outline, and the upholstery shop's gonna sew in another white line so that this matches perfectly and looks awesome on these seats. That is gonna be so cool, I cannot wait. But in order to do this, what I need to do now is remove this seat cover. This seat cover actually comes off, and I'm gonna show you how, so let's get to it. And the idea is to go from this to this. First, let's remove all this padding, which comes out very simply, just Velcros in. One last piece up here. Good. Next, we're gonna wanna take the seat, lie it on its back, and right down here we have a spring-loaded metal wire holding the seat cover tight around the seat. So just take a pliers and remove one wire from the spring to unload the tension. Now we could peel back the cover, but the harness pass-through at the bottom here is holding the seat cover in. So we want to carefully pull the cover out and around from under the plastic trim so we don't rip it. Just like that. Beautiful. And we'll do the same thing for the other side. Good. Now let's move to the top of the seat. So in order to get these out, unfortunately, you have to snap them open and you have to break them because they're glued together. But that's okay because I got brand new ones that we could reinstall after we break these. You just got to be very careful not to damage any of the material when you break these open. To break these open, I'm using a thin flathead screwdriver to pry apart the plastic just enough so I could get a thicker pry tool in there, which will give me more leverage. I'm just working around the perimeter of the plastic, removing as much material as I can, and as carefully as possible. I don't want to rip these seats. Okay, so it looks like I could just pull it apart. Perfect, that's one down. Now we need to do the same exact thing to the other side. And now the cover should just pull right off. Beautiful. Okay, let's go get my logo sewed on. And with a little bit of editing magic, I am back from the upholstery shop, and check this out. Oh man, I am so excited. Holy smokes, look at that. That looks so good. I cannot wait to get this installed on the seat, so let's go do that now. So I already got it set up perfectly on that seat. I'm gonna show you how to do it on this seat. It's really simple. It's the reverse of what we just did. Let's focus on the bottom part right here first, because we don't wanna break this plastic trim here. First, stretch the cover over the plastic trim and tuck the material under the whole trim piece just like that. Do the other side as well, making sure you tuck all the material under the plastic trim. Next, we could cover the top part of the seat by stretching the cover over the seat bolster, then the headrest, and then the other seat bolster. Now we could install the new plastic trim for the harness pass-throughs, and that'll fit in right here, just like that. And once you get the front plastic piece in place, then just push the rear plastic piece so that they snap together. And I'm not going to be gluing these because they seem to snap together really tight and they aren't coming apart. Good, so now we need to reattach the metal cable at the bottom. And a little trick is to use a screwdriver and slide the spring and the wire loop over it. Then turn the screwdriver using that leverage so they'll come together easily. Next, pull the screwdriver out and voila! It's attached. Remember to add this little cover, otherwise the metal spring will vibrate against the seat and drive you crazy. And the final step is adding the foam padding, which just velcros into place. And with that, the seats are completely done. Oh man, check them out. They look so good. This is definitely something I'm glad I did. And in total, it cost me $100 to do both seats. So $50 a seat, not bad, totally worth it. I am loving this. Now you wanna know where these seats will look really good? Inside my car. So let's go do that. And in order to do that, we need to remove the stock seats. Removing seats is easy. There are only 4 fasteners holding this in, 2 in the back, 2 in the front. So slide the seat backwards, which gives us access to the front fasteners. Get that socket on there, loosen it up, and that's one, and that's the other. Now we can work on loosening up the back 2 bolts. Loosen them up, and that's one, and that's the other. So with those 2 bolts out, all our fasteners are removed. Before we take the seat out, it's always a good idea to check underneath the seat, make sure you don't see any wires. Even though these aren't power seats, sometimes there could be airbag wires or sensor wires under the seats. In this case, I don't see anything. So now we can remove the passenger seat, and we want to be careful not to damage anything with the metal rails on the bottom of the seat. And with that seat out of the way, let's go remove the driver's side seat. And the driver's seat is the same process. Loosen up the front 2 nuts. Then the fire extinguisher bracket could be removed. Slide the seat forward, which gives us access to the last 2 bolts holding the seat in. And with those 2 bolts removed, the only difference between the driver's seat and that passenger seat we just took out is the driver's seat is a power seat. So we have to disconnect an electrical connector. That being said, if your driver's seat or passenger seat has an airbag in the side here, it's always a good idea to disconnect your negative terminal on the battery so that the airbags aren't charged up. We don't have to worry about that, so all we have to do is go under here, find the wiring harness right here, and disconnect it. Now say sayonara to the last stock seat this car is ever gonna see. So with both seats removed, chances are under the seats might be a little bit dirty. I'm sure these seats haven't been removed since 1998. So now's a good time to vacuum the carpets and maybe even shampoo them. I'm using the stiff bristle brush with the carpet cleaner to agitate the stain, and then I'm blotting it up with an absorbent paper towel. Alright, that is something real quick and easy that you could do to make your interior look that much nicer. I also did the other side as well. Nothing spectacular because I'm going to be removing the carpets to get to the bare metal underneath so we could weld in a 6-point roll cage. So yes, the carpets will be removed as well as the rear seats and some other bits and pieces. And the idea is we're going to paint the interior, paint the roll cage. I don't know the color theme yet. And with everything removed, we're going to have some weight reduction. And speaking of weight reduction, there's something I've been wanting to test, and that is checking the weight of the stock seat and the aftermarket seat and comparing the 2 to see how much weight savings we get. That stock seat is an electric seat and that stock seat is a manual slider seat, so we'll also be able to compare those 2 as well. And since the stock seats already have the brackets connected, I'll be sure to include the brackets in the aftermarket seat weight. Now I've been really curious about this. I want to know what you guys are thinking. How much weight do you think we're going to save with both seats? I think we're going to save about 10 pounds a seat, so 20 pounds in total. So let's find out. First up is the driver's side power seat, which weighs 50.4 pounds, and that's pretty heavy. Next, we have the passenger side manual seat, which weighs 40.2 pounds. Now, we have our racing seat with no brackets, which weighs 19.2 pounds. And finally, let's add the brackets, which gives us a total of 31.2 pounds. So not bad, we're saving about 28 pounds or 13 kilograms by going from the stock seats to the aftermarket seats. And I gotta say, these seats do look pretty good on my driveway, but where I think they look even better is in my car. So let's go grab our brackets and install the racing seats. On the driver's side, we have the wiring for the stock power seat, which we could tuck away under the carpeting. Next, you're gonna grab your floor mount bracket. Now these brackets are pretty universal. They have a bunch of holes on the top, But what isn't universal is how these legs are welded on. That's specifically made for my year, make, and model, so it should bolt right in. And I say should because sometimes they don't. Now we want to tighten the 2 front nuts by hand. Then we have our rear 2 bolts, which we also want to hand tighten. And we'll finish with the last one in the corner. And so far, so good. So we have all 4 of our fasteners hand tightened down. We don't want to tighten them down all the way because we still have to test fit our seats on here to make sure they fit. And to do that, we have to install the side mounts on our seats. So let's go do that now. And installing side mounts is easy. On the side of the seat, there are 2 holes. There's one up here and there's one down here. These holes line up with the holes in the side mount. You want the slotted holes to be at the front of the seat, and then grab a bolt with a washer and just thread it on. And the reason why you want the slots in the front is because you want to be able to adjust the front if you want a different seat angle. For now, I'm going to put this on the second slot. And when you tighten these bolts down, make sure you don't over tighten them. These are getting screwed into fiberglass, so just make sure they're snug. And with that side mount in, now we could go to the other side and install our other side mount. Same exact process. Make sure you use washers on the bolts and then tighten them down so that they're snug. And with both our side mounts on there, let's go test fit it in the car. So let's get it in place on the floor bracket. Good. And with the seat in place, oh man, that is looking awesome. We're almost there. We just need to test fit it, make sure we have it in the right spot. Right now, I have it centered on this bracket so that we could test fit it. And I just want to make sure that we could close the door. Beautiful. Yeah, we have a nice gap there. So there's no clearance issues with that. Now we just need to get in and try it out. All right, close the door. And the first thing I notice is, it's a little too far away. I can't press the clutch all the way, and I can't hit the gas and the brake all the way. But that's okay. All we have to do is move the seat forward just a little bit. And let's get in and try it out one more time. Okay, this time I could press the clutch in all the way. I could hit the gas, floor it, hit the brake, good. First gear, good, and hydro, good. So that's exactly where I want this. This feels perfect. So what we're gonna do now is try to find any holes that are matching between the bracket and the side mount here, and we'll slip a bolt through. If we're looking here, yeah, there's not gonna be any holes here. We're gonna have to drill on this one. Checking the other one. This we actually might be able to make work. Beautiful. So there's a hole there, we won't have to drill there. Then if we come around the front here, that's the last slot in this bracket. We're gonna have to drill a hole right about there, but we'll make it work. So now let's go check the other side. Same deal back here, there's no slots that it's fallen into, so we're just gonna have to drill a hole. So with all the slots and holes in this bracket, we only have one that fits right back there. All 3 of these are gonna have to get drilled. So in order to figure out where we're gonna drill, I have a bolt and get some paint. I'm using a paint marker and get a nice blob of paint on the tip of the bolt. Then place the bolt where you want it to go. The paint's gonna transfer to the metal, and that'll mark the exact spot that you need to drill. Now we wanna be careful and not move the seat at all so that we could do the front ones. And it's the same exact process. Use a bolt with a glob of paint on the tip, and then just push the bolt to where it's gonna go. Again, try to make sure you don't move the seat. That way all the holes will line up. So now let's remove the seat and see how we did. And that worked perfectly. Check it out. We got a bolt hole there, a bolt hole there, and a bolt hole there that we need to drill. So let's get drilling. Now one thing I noticed with this out of the car, right where our hole is supposed to be drilled, well, there's a leg. So if we drill the hole, this bolt won't go all the way through. So what we're gonna do is grab the side mount bracket from the other seat, line up our marks, and make a new mark over, so when we drill, we won't hit that leg. Now we could start drilling, and I have a few quick tips and tricks for drilling steel that's this thick. The first tip is to use cobalt bits because these are designed to drill through steel. And you can see I have 3 different bits. I'm going from small to medium to large, which is the width of my bolt. And I want to start with the small one. So we want to drill right there, and even though we're using a small drill bit, if we just start drilling like this, that drill bit is going to move all around, and it's gonna be hard to get this bit directly into the center. So to solve that problem, we're using something called a center punch. It's a spring-loaded punch. You just place this in the center of where you wanna drill and push down, and it creates a small crater for your drill bit to fit in so it won't skip around. We're starting with the small bit, then moving to the medium-sized bit, and then finishing with the large bit, which fits our bolt. Now we can test fit the bolt. Perfect, nice and tight. Now we're gonna follow the same process for the other 2 holes. Use the metal punch, then drill out each hole. And you want to remember to paint the inside of any holes you drill so they won't rust. Now with all the holes drilled, let's mount the seat. And this is where we get to see how accurate we were with our drilling. We're gonna come around back here, and to hold the seats in, I'm using high strength metric grade 10.9 bolts and washers, which are stronger than the average bolt and will safely secure the seat. So let's get this first bolt in the hole. Good, now let's do the others. And using a needle nose pliers will help you get the bolts into these harder to reach places. Now let's try the front, and that fits. And if this last one goes in, we are good to go. Beautiful, all the holes were drilled perfectly and the bolts fit in place. Now I'm gonna grab some washers and locking nuts, and let's bolt down the seat so we could install it. Now to tighten these down, we wanna make sure it doesn't come loose. So I'm adding some medium strength thread locker onto the threads. Then we're gonna grab our washer, and then I'm using a nylon locking nut. And that dark blue insert inside the nut is that nylon piece that deforms and grabs onto the threads as you tighten it down. So for the other three, add some thread locker, then the washer, and then tighten down that lock nut. Good. And with that, we are so close to finishing. So our seat is securely mounted to the bracket. Now we need to get the seat installed in the car. Now I'm not gonna tighten these bolts just yet because there's one last thing we need to do. And that is check the seatbelt fitment. So our seatbelt is right down here, and it's encased in this hard plastic, which isn't gonna work. It has to come over and then pass through right down here. So we're gonna have to remove the plastic on the seatbelt. The other thing is, our seatbelt on this side is gonna have to go through the pass-through instead of going around the top like this. And for this same seatbelt down at the bottom, we're gonna want it to go through this pass-through as well. So we're gonna have to unbolt it from back here and feed it through. So let's remove the seat one last time. And we're gonna work on this part of the seatbelt first. You can see it's encased in this hard plastic which doesn't allow it to bend. Under this plastic is gonna be a material just like a normal seatbelt. So we wanna remove that plastic and expose that material. These seatbelt bolts use a T50 Torx, so unscrew the bolt, and once it's unscrewed, we can remove the seatbelt. Well, not all the way because we have this wire here which lets the car know that your seatbelt's on. So we're gonna have to work with this inside the car. And what we wanna do is we wanna cut this plastic cover off. And you wanna be very careful not to cut the seatbelt in here. If you cut the seatbelt, if you even nick it a little bit, the seatbelt is garbage. So be very careful, and we'll start from the top here and work our way all the way down the seatbelt, cutting this plastic open. Now we have our seatbelt free to bend. So let's bolt it back in, snug it up, and then torque it down to factory spec, which for this car is 40 foot-pounds. Alright, now with that torqued into place, that is done. Now let's remove the bottom part of this seatbelt. This is also a T50 Torx, and with this removed, now we can install our seat. With the seat in place, we could grab the seatbelt and run it through the top pass-through, then bring it down here and run it through the bottom pass-through, and then bolt it back up into place. So snug this up and then torque it down to 40 foot-pounds. And with that tightened down, let me show you how the belt is getting run. So it's getting run from the top here, through the harness pass-through at the top, and through the harness pass-through at the bottom, and then it's gonna go over and connect just like that. This is laying on your shoulder, and this is laying on your lap, not against the seat. So you're gonna be securely in your seat, and that's how you run a 3-point seatbelt with your racing seat. Just as a little teaser, I have a full 6-point harness ready to get installed, but you can't safely run a harness without a roll cage. But don't worry, I will have a video on how to properly install a harness and roll cage. But for now, we have the stock 3-point seatbelt safely set up so we could use it, and it's still gonna work really well to keep me tight in the seat. And now we have one last thing that we need to do, and that is tighten down the bolts. First, can't forget about our fire extinguisher mount, then grab the 2 nuts and get them on the studs. And it's very important to torque down the seat bolts so they don't loosen up. And finally, add the fire extinguisher and clamp it in there so it's secure. Now all we have left is the back 2 bolts and we're done. Now a little top tip, something I've been doing that's been really helpful is I've been putting the size of the bolt right on the bolt head. So this is a 15mm bolt. That way I know to grab my 15mm wrench. And since there's a pretty steep angle to get in there, instead of using a regular ratcheting wrench, I'm using a swiveling ratcheting wrench. And with all 4 of those bolts tightened down, there's just one more thing I want to do. Right here, when you're getting in and out of the car, it's really easy to see these side mount bolts. So for a quick reference, see if the bolts are coming undone, I like to get a paint marker and just draw a little line. And then after I drive the car a bunch, if that line isn't lined up anymore, I know this is loosened. So it's a good way to keep an eye on your bolts. And with that final detail, we've completely installed the driver's side seat. Now let's quickly install the passenger seat. I'm just gonna do a quick overview and show you the main differences from this side and that side. And the first difference, and probably the biggest difference, you can see that fastener's fitting in, that one's fitting in, and that one's fitting in just fine. But if you look down here, the hole in the bracket does not line up with the hole in the chassis, so the bolt doesn't fit in. So what we need to do is grab a paint marker and just mark off the area that we're gonna have to cut out. So to carve out that extra material, I'm gonna be using a carbide bit on a rotary tool. And that extra material we had to remove from the bracket is enough to get our bolt in there. So a takeaway from this is these brackets are helpful, but be prepared to drill and make some changes. Luckily, the rest of the install was the same as the driver's side. Torque down all the bolts, run the seatbelt through the harness slots, and torque down the seatbelt bolt. And with the seatbelt anchor bolt torqued down, we have finished. And that is everything you need to know on how to install racing seats. Man, this looks so good. And now you know what we need to do? We need to go for a ride. So let's get in the car, start her up. Since I won't be getting to the track till next week, I don't have anywhere to really test these seats out. But man, already I am surprised at how different this car feels to drive. You could feel there's more of a direct connection to the car, probably because these seats are bolted directly to the frame. And you could feel there's more vibration through the seat compared to stock. You really feel like you're sucked into the seat and you're one with the car. And that just made this car so much more fun to drive. So there you go. I was not expecting that at all. These seats make a huge difference on how this car feels. So even if you're not going on the track, now I'd consider getting these seats just because it made me feel so much more attached to the car when I was driving. I really like it a lot. The seats themselves were comfortable, the seatbelt worked fine, and that's how you install racing seats. Hopefully the video was helpful. If it was, remember to give it a thumbs up. Also, if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. Everything I used in this video is linked in the description. And stay tuned, I cannot wait to take this on the track and see how it feels. That video and a bunch of other awesome videos are coming up.